Today we're going to make a classic American cake, a chiffon cake. Now chiffon cake owes its wonderful texture to the fact that we use oil instead of butter in the recipe. Today we're choosing canola oil. Canola oil is a great choice because it has the lowest amount of saturated fats of any common culinary oil. It's entirely trans fat free, and it's a great source of plant omega-3s. So not only is it a delicious cake, it's actually a healthy version of that same cake. We start a chiffon cake by mixing together some dry ingredients. I have some flour and sugar, baking powder, and salt. All these need to be sifted to ensure that we're not going to have any lumps in our cake when we're done. Just run them through a sieve. And we're going to transfer this mixture into the mixer bowl of an electric mixer. I'm going to fit this in place using a paddle attachment. And next comes the really kind of fun and interesting part, and that is blending of egg yolks with oil. In effect, we're almost making something that's essentially like a mayonnaise here, which gives the cake its great soft texture that you can even take right out of the refrigerator, and it has a great consistency. I'm a particular fan of this cake because, well, one, I find it really kind of fun and interesting to make, but it also has great flavor and great texture. And I think it's a pretty easy cake to understand. We're going to blend together our oil and egg yolks, thin it out with a little bit of water, and flavor it with some vanilla. And that part is going to get mixed in with our flour. Because there's fairly minimal mixing and a high percentage of fat in this recipe in the form of canola oil, you can mix the cake to develop good structure and not really run into the problem that you get a lot of times with pound cake type recipes that rely on butter, where the cake actually gets a little bit too overdeveloped and becomes somewhat tough in its texture. I'm just going to mix this right in with the dry ingredients. Lower my and start off nice and slow so it doesn't splash. We're going to mix this for about 20 seconds to fully develop and aerate the cake mixture. And then after that, I'm going to scrape it down and we'll mix it a little further. Inside the pan, or inside the bowl, I can see the cake is starting to, all the dry ingredients are thoroughly moistened, but there's a little bit hanging around the edge. So once it's started to mix, I'm going to turn it on high speed. This will incorporate a little bit of air into the mixture, so we'll get a nicer consistency, nicer texture. So we blend it, and you can see now, pretty smooth on the inside. But it's also really important that I scrape down the sides. I actually have a little bit of my egg mixture left behind in the bowl, so I'll scrape that out. Now I'm going to scrape down the sides of this pan briefly. You can see there's a little bit of, wow, look at all that flour that got stuck in the bottom. That's why it's really important to scrape down the bowl. So we mix it by hand for a moment. A chiffon cake is a great recipe for, birthday cakes, or I actually made wedding cakes with it plenty of times. We're also going to bake a version today in a tube pan, which is a little bit, I think, nicer in terms of sort of a family style presentation. It looks fun and the kids like it. Okay. The base part of this cake is well mixed. It's nice and smooth, free of lumps, and I didn't overmix it, so I don't have to worry about developing too much elasticity and shrinkage. Set this aside, and now we're on to the last component of the cake, which is the egg whites. I'm going to make a meringue here. Meringue is just a blend of egg whites. We foam by whipping it carefully, and then adding some sugar to stabilize that egg foam. When we put it into the oven, all the air that's been trapped inside the meringue will then expand and will help to leaven the cake so you get a nice light texture. Now the key to a successful meringue is to blend at very slow speed so you can slowly incorporate air into the egg whites without having it mix too fast, and get a nice tight structure that won't have the air bubbles pop out. I let my egg whites whip by themselves until they're foamy and opaque, and we'll slowly add the sugar. It's important to have your egg whites at room temperature. If they're too cold, there's a danger of over mixing them. You'll get really big air bubbles that will then break when you go to fold it into the base. So slow is the way to go. Once our egg white mixture is become foamy, I'll slow this down so you can see inside. Looks like sea foam, or if you were to pour a beer into a glass, that same type of foam. It's not very stable, and so we need to stabilize it by adding some sugar. Of course, sugar is also going to sweeten the cake. Add our sugar very slowly so you can ensure they have the best structure. Once you've incorporated all the sugar into the egg white mixture, you need to whip it to allow it to hold more air. We're going to stop whipping when it reaches the stage of soft peak. I'm going to transfer my batter into this bowl. It makes it easier to fold the egg whites, also easier for you to see. All right, so our egg whites are now beautifully developed. We have a nice meringue. You can see it's nice and creamy, not over whipped. It has the texture of shaving cream. And so our cake batter is a little bit thick right now, so we'll take a portion of these egg whites. I'm going to just stir it in here to loosen that mixture. Once we've softened it up, I'll very carefully fold in the remaining egg whites. We can hold as much air as possible and get the lightest texture to our cake. So very carefully lift the batter up over the egg whites, incorporate the two, and turn the bowl as you're doing it. The more careful you are with this step, the more volume you're going to get from your cake. I'm going to keep mixing until I don't see any more striping. It's reached a uniform color. And I know that I'm all ready to go. Now I've prepared two pans here. One is a typical 10-inch pan that we might use to make a birthday cake. We also have an angel food cake tube pan. For the 10-inch birthday cake pan, I sprayed it with a little canola oil spray and then dusted it with some flour. With my tube pan, I just left it alone. I also have a small piece of parchment paper on the bottom of this pan. We're going to divide up our batter into the two pans. Just want to be careful not to spill it. Canola oil-based cakes have a wonderful texture, and they're also versatile. I can add perhaps some grated lemon to this cake batter, add some cocoa powder to it, make a nice chocolate chiffon cake. There we go. These cakes are ready for the oven. Okay, I have these cakes out of the oven right now, the two versions of our chiffon cake. Let's take a cut out of this one. Now the one is perfect for slicing and using to build a typical birthday cake. Look at the texture of here. It's nice, it's moist, it's rich, a little subtle flavor of vanilla. It's going to have a great texture right out of the refrigerator. And again, that's because of the canola oil that we're using here as opposed to a cake that's typically made with butter. It's a versatile cake and easy to make.